So there's this idea of self-love, which is kind of an interesting one. In general, I would have said that traditionally I would have viewed that as kind of almost icky, a little too heavy on the like self-esteem, prop myself up, try to make myself feel good about myself, in sort of an artificial and frankly suspect. I think how I grew up, the idea of self-love sounded suspect. Now, we were supposed to love our neighbor as ourself. And if you took that to mean that so I don't know if I fully parsed that, but that is a part of one of the most important commandments in the Bible, right? Now, you could view it several ways. You could say, well, the assumption is that you need to really love your neighbor, which means, there, by extension, that you need to really love yourself. It could also be a little bit more of a simple interpretation, basically with the assumption that loving yourself involves you're always looking out for your own interests. And in the same way, you should always be looking out for the interests of those around you. And that is sort of how you define loving your neighbor. So, I don't know for sure which one of those is closer, but if you think about it, it's very easy, I think, inside our own mental space to harbor a critical spirit about ourselves. And you could say, well, yeah, we should be critical of ourselves. I mean, if we're not critical about ourselves, then who will be? I mean, like, we could, that's an important part of being an adult, is criticizing your weaknesses. And like, well, maybe. But I think it can be quite misguided. I think we can be kind of I have a mental vision of what the perfect person is like. If you want an actual version of what the perfect person is like, that would be Jesus Christ. But I have this sort of like unattainable, maybe, view of what a perfect person should be like, or what I should be like. And then I compare myself where I'm at compared to that sort of unattainable version. And then I criticize myself and say, you're not worthy, valuable, good, loved, etc. Right? So, this could be in any like wide variety of things, right? Excuse me. So, I think that so one of the areas where this is interesting to me is in thinking about how we view our bodies. Now, some people are tremendously fit, tremendously good looking, and in a society that really values, physical attractiveness, they can feel right about themselves, etc. Now, many of us are pretty ordinary. We have distinct flaws, if you will. Now, God might disagree with the term flaw, but in our view, we tend to compare to the models, the people on the packaging, right? Compared to packaging people, we can see how that clearly, our bodies, for some of us, our bodies do not fit the, there's no cereal box or, no swimwear company. Nobody is going to come saying, could you please be on our packaging because you look so great, right? And so for those of us who are not currently at least packaging material, here are some thoughts. So you think about the potential effects to your health and your well-being if you're constantly being critical of your own body. And it's like, well, I mean, if I don't love and appreciate my body, who will? Which sounds like which is kind of a hilarious sounding statement to make. And hopefully you have a spouse who is appreciative and supportive of however you look, okay? But I think that this is actually a mindset shift that I think is important. Is if we can, I don't mean this in some extreme sense of like, if I'm obese, that I just embrace obesity as that's awesome and go out and try to campaign that everybody who's obese should feel like, obesity is wonderful and we should encourage everyone to try it. Like, not some extreme version like that, right? But what I am saying is, though, that you can, where this whole movement around sort of like, I don't even know what it's called, but basically being fat affirmative, I think they got a partial truth right there, right? Which is like, there is no reason why you have to take the societal norms for a perfect body, superimpose them on yourself, and then be unhappy for the rest of your life. Like, how irrational, right? Like, it's, why not accept yourself wherever you're at right now with your physical characteristics, and I don't care if you've got lumps or bumps, or you're too skinny, you're too fat, you weigh, like you're incredibly obese, or you're some sort of scrawny stick. Either way, whichever way, that God made you, and that your body has matured, frankly, some of us have bodies that are maturing, if you will. Why not start with acceptance? Like, this is where I'm at, and why not start with some gratefulness? Like, you know what? Maybe my body isn't perfect. Maybe it doesn't look perfect. For people who have, if you have a health issue, maybe your body doesn't even work perfect, right? Like, maybe it doesn't do everything you want it to do perfectly. Maybe you can't run a mile right now. Or, maybe you are stuck in a wheelchair or whatever. Maybe your eyes are bad and you have to have a lot of, some major corrective lenses to see anything or whatever. Whatever it is about your body that you could point to and say, that's a deficiency. Why not start with acceptance and appreciation for everything that your body can do, and rather than just be nonstop critical about yourself, which it feels like it has to have a negative impact on your, not just your mental health, but also your physical health. Like, you're essentially using your brain. Your brain essentially is rejecting your body, if you will. And it seems like that's tremendously unhealthy. So I have been trying to cultivate more gratefulness, more positive self-talk to my body. Now, my body is quite middle-aged, even though I'm just turning 40 soon, right? There are plenty of things that I could point to and say, that's not packaging material there. But at the same time, there are lots of things my body allows me to do, and I can be very grateful for them. And so I can cultivate self-love. I think probably the best way to approach that really is understanding God's love for me as the foundation. But when you can see yourself as being tremendously loved by God, then I think it's easier for you to love yourself in a sense, because you see through His eyes how valuable you are. And then I think you can also translate that also into being very accepting of your physical state. So now, you can do more to improve your physical state, right? I could work out more. Well, I say more. I don't really work out besides, I do get some exercise, but I don't necessarily work out in traditional sense. So I could do that, right? I could become a gym rat. I could spend a couple hours a day in the gym. I could adopt a super strict diet. I guess I could. I could try anyway. Things like that, right? Where I could make it a really really high priority, and I could get a little bit closer to packaging material. Um, so I think we can have beliefs around our body that are like, oh, I could just never get fit, and then so that's self-reinforcing. So you never even try, so you never do, right? So I'm not saying that you should sit on your laurels and do nothing to improve your health. I'm a fan of improving your health, right? But in the meantime, like, why not embrace whatever you have, whatever that's good? Approach your body with gratefulness. And then I think that actually gives you a better standpoint from which, if you want to make improvements to your body, if you want to become more fit or more lean or whatever it is, probably good to first ask yourself why. Is it just for other people's acceptance, and is that enough? Is that worth the price you need to pay? But but in general, I think if you appreciate your body, I think that's a more healthy starting point than healthier. I think that's a healthier starting point from which to then work on improving your body, rather than you think about it. Think about yourself as a coach, right? So if you're coaching a team and you're like, "Oh, you guys, you players, you guys are trash." Now, some players will be motivated that, and they'll go out and they'll accept the tough coaching. They'll get better, right? So if that works for you to self-talk to yourself like that, hey, be my guest. But for some personalities, in general, like you want a coach that believes in you, right? So if your coach doesn't believe in you, how are you going to believe in yourself? Now take that to you and your own body. It's like in a sense, you are your own coach, right? So if you don't believe that your body is good or can become good, or like if you have a totally negative view of your body, how are you going to maintain motivation around taking care of your body or of improving your body? So anyway, those are some of my thoughts, but bottom line is a pretty simple idea, which is be grateful for the body that you have, embrace it to whatever extent that you can, and improve it. But in the meantime, be happy. Find a certain level of contentment with whoever you are and wherever you're at.